how y'all doing today? It's Laura Williams and Kathy White. We are Women of Vision Austin co-chairs. And we just wanted to do this education series this summer just to kind of give you a snapshot of why we chose World Vision, why we're involved, and the impact that it has made on our lives and our families and other women that we're connected to. So I have here with Kathy White, and she will give you more of an introduction of who she is and why she chose World Vision.
Thank you, Laura. So in 2010, Laura and I had never met, but God had a plan, and so I was married and had, at the time, 4 kids under 5, and just had an invitation to start a Bible study about World Vision and Women of Vision, and I really wanted to hit delete on that email since I was involved in another ministry, but was just encouraged to take some time to pray and to consider, like, okay, Lord, is this really you leading me, or is this something I need to say no to? But so at the time, even though I was married and with young children, and it was just a wonderful period of discernment that has led to great things, but I'm just glad I listened.
Definitely. And it was one of those times in my life that I was involved in church and with at-risk youth, and it was a busy time, and with having little kids, I think we both felt kind of overwhelmed. Like, I don't know if I can put something else on our plate, but one thing I love about our chapter and about Kathy is we're big on seeking God and asking Him for what He wants us to do. You know, you may not feel like you have room, and we're hoping at the end of this this video that you actually start to ask those questions. Maybe you can connect with our chapter. We do have a benefit coming up in September, and we'll tell you a little bit more about what that is and who we have coming to speak to us. So, Kathy, tell us why you chose World Vision. There's so many different nonprofit organizations that do similar things, but World Vision stands out for a reason. So I want to, just let us know why you chose World Vision.
So, like I just mentioned, I didn't choose World Vision per se. I felt like God chose it for me. And so once I listened and I felt like this was really what God was calling me to do, it was then over the years as I walked it out that I was asking that same question of, like, why, God, did you lead me to this organization out of all the others that so many are doing good work, right? So why World Vision? And so looking back now, I can see just the breadth and the depth that World Vision has. It's not just focused on water. It's not just focused on advocacy or justice, or, it's the whole picture of, and that they stay in one community for years, decades if necessary, and to make sure that the change that's being introduced, that the people are truly empowered to run with it when World Vision pulls out and moves somewhere else. And so the fact that they're in almost 100 countries, so just the breadth and the depth, the fact that it's Christian, obviously, and just but that they're willing to work in any faith context. If there is no church, they will still show up to do that work that needs to be done and to be a witness. So and then the third thing is just, it's just a unique opportunity to empower the people on the front lines. And so we get the benefit of walking alongside that, the community and the people on the front lines. So I can have conversations with people back here, my own family, my kids, but knowing that, we're empowering the people in that country, and the leaders in that country, to use their gifts and talents to improve, to bring fullness of life, and then they're empowering, the people that are in the hardest situations, men, women, and children. So for me, it's a wonderful opportunity to partner with what God is doing.
Definitely. So just to hone in on those 3 key elements, you mentioned a lot of them in the last question, but can you identify them a little bit more definitively for the audience? What are 3 key elements that stood out for you in regards to what World Vision does? What is about their approach and what you've seen? Because you've traveled there, so you've been able to have hands-on experience to really see the impact.
Right. So, it's longevity, right? The fact that it's been around since 1950. So I mentioned the breadth and the depth. I mentioned the Christian witness. The fact that they're uniting the body of Christ to do what He asked us to do. but regardless of the faith context, they're going in to
Yes,
do that work.
that's big.
And then the third thing was just the opportunity to partner with what God is doing to just enable people here to be doing the both and, because we can serve locally, we can donate our time and our money locally, but we're supposed to, our neighbor is defined as more than just here.
Yes,
we're
definitely.
supposed to be equipping people to do that work in other places that we're so blessed, we have the resources to do the both and.
Yes, that's good. That is so good. So tell me a little bit about how you feel that World Vision, your time with World Vision, how that has impacted you, your family, your children. Kind of give the ladies, especially moms who are out there who may feel very busy. You know, I know we get that at times, and we're very supportive over that. But what about it that has really kind of blew on into your family, your children, how they perceive life and their purpose?
I'd say that it has transformed just the way that I live out my faith. You know, that it's given my faith a new dimension. It was like almost like I was living my life in 2D before, and this added that third dimension of just of living out what we profess to believe. And I have to, you know, to be honest with you, like part of it was that I just, you know, you get that compassion fatigue. We've heard that kind of term before, where there's so many problems out there in the world, and you almost want to turn away because you can't. It's hard to care.
Yes,
you want to. Your heart already breaks every time you hear about a situation. And I think what I love about World Vision and Women of Vision is just that, yes, they educate you on the hard things that are happening, but they also are in a position to do something about it. If we're going to if they're going to educate us and we're going to educate other people, it's going to be with an action item to follow it.
That's good.
So whether it's prayer or advocacy or you know, donating our time or our resources, our money, there's something we can do.
Definitely.
And we know that
that's good.
that the ultimate responsibility is, you know, God's responsibility. He has the victory. It's up to Him to work out like the details.
Yes.
But we get to partner with Him.
Definitely.
And what He's doing.
Definitely. That's really good. I think we've been in that place, especially when we started to tackle human trafficking, when God really brought that issue to our hearts. I know I felt very overwhelmed. When we talked about it on the plane, we didn't know how we would even dive into that topic, but we've learned that do the part that God has asked you to do and allow Him to do the rest. And I think that's so important, because there's so many issues, right? We can name a dozen on our hands that we all feel very passionate about. But you've talked very well of how you can just focus on that one action. And World Vision is good with educating us and empowering us to do the thing that we can do. So that's very good. So our focus this year is Honduras. And Kathy, I want just you to give us a picture of what's important and what we've learned so far about the impact of violence in that area and what we feel God is calling our chapters to do.
You know, referring to the news, you know, we hear just the border crisis and then the government's wrestling with trying to stem the tide and to secure the border, right? And so I have to tell you that I'm just glad to be part of understanding what God is doing to try to address the root causes of the situation in Honduras. So understanding that, you know, first of all, people are leaving the rural areas to move to the city, you know, because there's no economic opportunity in the rural areas. And so you have a generation like the young, you know, the teens moving to look for work, or you have parents, right, that have over the years have left their children with family members in order to secure income, right? So either way, you have this flight, economic flight. But then when they get to the city, it's an awful situation with the gang violence that has started and just escalated. And
definitely.
And then the interesting, you know, so they're in a position of fleeing the violence just to survive, you know. And so you can understand why they would, you know, they see America in their media, right? And it's just the land of milk and honey, really. And and so they are risking their very lives. For that opportunity, for safety and for opportunity to survive. So that's given me a heart of compassion to understand. Like if I were in their shoes, then I would, you know, very likely be making that same decision. It's hard to understand, why you would risk your life, or especially the life of your child.
Yeah, definitely.
And then one of the interesting statistics I just read about was that in World Vision studies, and in their experience, a third of children feel at risk of violence, not just in the community, but in their own homes.
Wow.
And so,
that's pretty big.
If you're going to be doing work to try to improve, train give kids or youth skills in terms of computer training and all that kind of stuff, or just Christian discipleship, it's like those benefits are muted if there's still violence in the home.
Yes, definitely.
And it's just what the World Vision report was talking about, is that there's been a normalization of violence in the culture over the decades here. That the violence started out externally, in the community, but it has made its way into the home. And so World Vision is one of the few organizations, because it's faith-based, will address the heart issue behind that.
That's
of
good.
just how are we supposed to relate to one another as men and women, as husbands and wives, as parents and children, because that home, that's supposed to be,
your safety, your place, your sanctuary.
Right. And so there's just a lot of brokenness there that we can bring clean water. We can improve health.
Yes.
And encourage kids to go to school and stay in school and give people economic opportunity. But we really have to address the heart issue there about who we are, who God is, and just how we're supposed to treat one another.
Definitely. I think this past week I actually had an opportunity to sit in court, and the case had to do with family violence, and the lawyer asked a question to all of us. Who has been impacted by family violence in some way, whether if it's you personally or your friend, and almost everyone in that courtroom raised their hand.
Right.
And it was
in the US.
It just really struck me, because throughout the time I'm thinking, okay, God, why am I here? Why am I spending my time in this courtroom? But I think at the end of the day, I took away that almost every single person has either experienced some form of violence, or their friend, they know someone who's been impacted by violence. And as these individuals were responding and asking questions, you can tell that there's still that pain, and that's still that just that trauma, even though they're adults and they're living their own lives now. So it really struck me, and it connects to what we're doing and what we're supporting and partnering with World Vision, but ultimately partnering with what God is doing. And I think what I love about Women of Vision Austin and World Vision is that we don't feel like our hands are tied. I think as things are coming across our screens, I get overwhelmed, and intentionally I don't watch the news because I feel powerless when I do. And this organization and what we do, it just gives us that outlet to educate ourselves, to educate other women who are from different faith and cultures about what we can do here. And our benefit is gonna tie into that. So is there anything else that maybe we didn't cover in our time that you want to share in regards to our focus for Honduras, that you would like our listeners to know about before we kind of talk about our September benefit?
Just that, we just tying it into the breadth and depth of the work that World Vision does, is that World Vision is working in the rural areas in Honduras, working in the city, really targeting the at-risk populations, which are, the youth, and then, single families. So whether it's a grandmother or grandparents that are raising children, their grandchildren, or single moms, there's just certain families, that are really at risk. And so when I see the news, it's helpful to know that God is working.
Yes, He is, definitely.
And there's every reason to have hope that in time, that work, will bear fruit. And when there is successful change there in Honduras, World Vision will then use that as a platform to move on to other areas of Central America that are also fighting the same types of violence and situation.
And one of the main goals of World Vision is, and the people themselves, is to stay home. I think, we understand that the focus is some, may not want them here, but I want to be home. And I know if this was on my turf, my choice would be to be home. And World Vision's work and their goal is to create a transformation in that culture, in that area, so that can be home and it can be a safe home for the families that are there. So that's why we're supporting it, and that's why we're for what God is wanting us to do. So tell us about our benefit. We have a benefit that's coming up in September. And if you want to know more, this is more of a snippet just to kind of get you just a first level understanding of why we chose World Vision and why we have continued since 2010. Been a part of Women of Vision Austin. But our benefit is awesome every year. And we have a great speaker that's coming out. So Kathy, maybe you can tell us a little bit more about our speaker and also the date and time and where we're having our benefit.
So on September 14th, Saturday, from 9:30 to 11, we're meeting at Balcones Country Club here in Northwest Austin. And Heather Broder will be coming from Houston. So she works for a private firm in Houston, actually, that is dedicated to the work, investing the profits from their business, this family that owns it, into the work of World Vision in Honduras. So they were led, and then Heather's position as VP of Communications and Missions is to take. I want to say they have 200 employees in Canada and the U.S. and the Philippines, and so it's to take small groups of employees to Honduras 3 times a year to see the work that's being done, and if they want to partner, to sponsor a child.
Awesome.
But the fact that she's been able to repeatedly visit Honduras, she's met just some amazing men and women and children, and to be able to bring their testimony, their story back to us to show
awesome.
The work that's being done. So she's gonna, and she's dynamic. She's
she is.
She's got a
She's
spirit
amazing.
of joy and a heart for the Lord. So I'm
Definitely.
excited to hear the details of what she has to share, and how God led her to that same kind of awareness and work.
Yes. So you actually can come with your husband, your partner. Our husbands normally are there supporting us if they're able to. Our children are there. We will definitely have those details out, how you can RSVP. But if you have any questions, please let us know. We want to be there. If you want to be on our email list so that we can send updates on upcoming events. We do have a book study that's coming up that you can get to know and meet some of our Women of Vision Austin women, and they're amazing. I just want you to know they're all amazing. But please join us. We thank you so much for your time, and I just pray that you understand that God has a purpose for all of us, and we have a part to play. And ultimately, with me and Kathy and all the other women who are involved with World Vision in some way, or Women of Vision, we just want to be a part of what he's doing. So you have a good day, and thank you for your time.